Jeff and Taylor.
You are going to fail and bomb and gag and fail and bomb.
Yalla, let's go.
Welcome into the final 30-plus minutes of Middays with Mannix and Mannix. We're getting out of here early today because Maine Celtics basketball is at 2 o'clock. That's the tip time. Pregame is 1:45 as the Maine Celtics take on the Long Island Nets on the road here this afternoon. But right now, 1 o'clock on a Monday means it's time to talk football. Former college football coach Malik Hall. Malik, thanks for jumping on again with us. Crazy wild card week, and we have a national championship game to talk about, too. How are you?
Hello, hot coffee. How about it, guys? I mean, talk about a wild card hangover. This was one heck of a weekend of football.
Yes, it most certainly was. I know I'd love your thoughts on it, too. I know I kind of felt like, man, these games weren't as entertaining as I thought they would be. Now, Cincinnati, Las Vegas was great. That lived up to the hype. I think San Francisco, Dallas did, too. But other than that, man, a whole lot of domination by one team over the other.
You know, ultimately, the games that were in the air was the Pats and the Bills game. I thought that would be a little more competitive. The Patriots, listen, I tweeted it. Revenge is so served cold, and that's what the Bills did. They served up a nice plate of it for them. Josh Allen was off the chart good. But again, you know, look, if he has that magic in 2 more weeks, it'll be an interesting battle against the Titans. But hats off because the Bills defense did everything they needed to do. They stopped the run and below freezing. So every hit is a punishing hit on that field right there. And I'm telling you, Bills Mafia delivered on that game. I got to tell you, the Bengals. How about they broke out the Iggy Shuffle? How about that? How about that? The Raiders. Listen, hats off to the Raiders. I think again the refs kind of add into the drama of the playoffs a little bit. Okay, but I think the Bengals. Chase is, man, this kid is off the chart. I think they tried to give him the ball at least 20 times, at least. From handoffs to getting them the ball on screens. I mean, he's a big-time player. He showed up and delivered. But I think the Bengals kind of showed their hand a little bit. You know, the Raiders really could have ran the ball a little bit more. But I really think they wanted to get into a shootout with them. And I think going into the next few weeks, if they don't figure a way how to run the ball consistently, I think they're going to have their hands full because I think Burrow is a dude, but I don't think he's developed to where you can win the whole thing on his arm right now. And though they've gotten this far, I just don't see them beating the Titans ultimately just on his arm.
Well, you mentioned Jamar Chase, and that's a guy I want to kind of focus on. I felt like if the Patriots had a guy like him against Buffalo, they'd probably put up some more points, but he's so dynamic. And one thing I heard them talking a little bit about on the broadcast that I just was really intrigued about is how, you know, they basically could use him anywhere. And when he was also at LSU, you know, at one time they said he was the best running back if he had played that position on the LSU football team, kind of telling you the kind of athlete he was. Moving forward with him, I mean, as you mentioned, maybe they tipped their hand a little bit, but how dangerous can the Cincinnati Bengals offense be? We talk about Burrow, but I mean, Jamar Chase may be the one that makes them so dynamic.
Absolutely. You hit it on the nose. And the reality, and I don't want to switch games, but just in a small comparison, Debo do everything Samuel, right? Like this dude does a lot of what Chase does. The difference is that's the 49ers offense. I think right now the Bengals are just trying to feed him the ball in so many different ways. And I think as you go, if you just focus on him, I'm looking for someone else to make the play for the Bengals. The running back is a tremendous threat as a pass catcher. But again, they do not, as this goes, you're going to have to run the ball, period. And let's be honest, we almost saw San Francisco lose because Like we saw Dallas lose because they could not stop the run, period. If you cannot stop the run and the refs try to do everything or whatever, if you're a conspiracy theory guy, like that game, Dallas had every opportunity to win. But you're going against that offense where you don't know who's getting the ball, that makes it challenging. The Bengals, you know who's getting the ball, so you can kind of lock in on that.
Okay, and I'm interested from your coaching perspective about the quarterback draw call that late in a game that they ended up not getting a playoff again in Dallas. What did you think of that play call?
I was beside myself because it wait a minute. A little bit of this is okay. You're already in a position to throw the Hail Mary, and so I understand the coaching thought about it. Okay, let's try to rip off a quick 20 yards and now run a pass concept in the end zone, opposed to a Hail Mary. But with no timeouts, I mean, you gotta realize, like, hey, we're gonna chalk this one up. I also am not. Look, I'm not naive. There was very few places that San Francisco would have allowed the ball to go. So that's kind of one of those trap and bait situations where they couldn't have thrown the ball on the outside because they were funneling everything into the middle of the field. So if they did throw a Hail Mary, the entire secondary was going to collapse on it from the outside in. And so the temptation, they bit. Dak bit, the coach bit. The thing that hurts is, if it had worked, like that's the beauty about coaching. You throw it out there. If it works, you're a genius. If it works and people still don't agree with it, it works. So your opinion of it is all relative. But because this didn't work, because the Cowboys are America's team, listen, they have fans all over the country, right? And so this is classic underachieving moment right here for the Cowboys. And I wish, and I was on the bandwagon. I want everyone to know that. Like, they were loaded. They built the team the right way, but you got to execute, and that they did not do.
Well, and I want to talk a little bit about that because I mean, as a coach's perspective too, we talk about how so much of analytics comes into some of these decisions being made by coaches as well. For me, if I'm looking at this play, doesn't potentially 2 shots at the end zone make more sense than trying to do a run play down the middle to just get you to one more potential play? Again, it was not guaranteed, as you said, because there's no timeout. So to me, this is just another case of Mike McCarthy's failure. And I got to ask, do you think he's going to be in Dallas for really that much longer, even after this decision? Do you think his leash is short next year?
Unfortunately, because of the team, like all teams are not equal, all coaches are not equal, and the evaluation process isn't. Like, on the surface, there's no reason for them to get rid of Mike McCarthy. They have gone to the playoffs, although they've been in the playoffs and they haven't gone far. Like, this is technically year 3 if you count the COVID year. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If you don't, it's really he's on the front end of this. But I will say this, energy and vibration means a lot, and the energy and vibration for the Cowboy fan base is disappointment and, again, underachieving because they had the ball club. In years past, they may be missing pieces. Like, we know the Patriots is missing a dynamic receiver. We can't say that about the Cowboys. So right now, I don't wish – look, I've been fired. And you're not a coach until you get fired and rehired, they say. But I don't wish to fire on any coach. But I think he will have to he won't have to fight for his job this offseason just because the noise in the Dallas Cowboy fan base, whether extreme or not, they go bring the pressure at him.
Speaking with Malik Hall, former college football coach, Penn, UMass, Bates, amongst other schools that he coached at. Wanted to get to the 2 quarterbacks that, of course, played in the Super Bowl last year, Brady and Mahomes. Both their teams are moving on. Brady, a fairly efficient game. Patrick Mahomes was Patrick Mahomes. I guess we shouldn't have expected anything different from those 2 guys, huh?
Not at all. Listen, those guys are for whatever it's worth, that's the bar again. Those two guys, we got to find someone that can statistically show up and beat them, and at the game show up and beat them. And for whatever it's worth, the noise in Tampa, listen, he played in New England for his whole career. That noise is not bothering him. And though they're down a few weapons, they're down a few weapons with still more weapons. If Florette comes back, they can run the ball. Their defense is stout. They have Mike Evans on the outside. They have Big Gronk in the middle. They still have pieces. They had some nice flashy pieces along with Godwin, along with AB. And same to be said about the Chiefs. The Chiefs had that slide at the tail end, but everyone knows, and the entire NFL knows, the offense is driving it, which will be interesting for the Chiefs is as they keep going, can they hold the line defensively? And that's where, if you compare both teams, that's where I think Tom Brady still is the team to beat on his end. The Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals, all of those teams that we're talking about, they like to shoot it out. They want the shootout. So if anyone can, that's a throw up. The team that I think that can hold the line and stop them from going in the air and shooting the ball all over the place is the Titans. And so the Titans have to prove, even though they're the division winners, they have to prove that they can hold that line and beat the Chiefs. And Tampa, at some point, has to go up to Green Bay, which those will be the games. But we're looking far ahead, obviously. But, again, a lot has to happen. They have to beat the Rams, who I think is going to beat the Cardinals tonight. They have to beat the Cardinals because I think the Cards are going to beat the Rams, even though it's at home. And as this thing unfolds, I will say this. I'm not counting Tom Brady out, and I'm certainly not counting Holmes out. And so with those two being the poster quarterbacks of the NFL right now, it's hard to vote against those guys.
Yeah, well, and I want to keep it on that. I mean, who is the X factor for you tonight? Look, for me, it's Cooper Kupp. Not sure what you feel. I know Stafford has to have a good night. We know that defense has to keep Kyler Murray in check. But for me, the X factor is going to be Cooper Kupp tonight and how much he can get open and help Stafford out in that. Who is it for you, Malik?
You know who it is for me, Tay. It is Matt PST Stafford. Like, he has to. Kupp is a dude. They have enough weapons, but if he – whether it's a tip ball by the defensive end, whether it's a pass that's thrown backwards and bobbles into a safety, he cannot be so careless with the football because they have those weapons. Also, they can run the ball. And so in my mind, they have to do a great job and rely on their defense because the defense is stacked to stop the Cardinals and then take advantage of opportunities because their defense will give it to them. They have a running back, they have receivers, they have a quarterback with an arm, but an arm that sometimes gets him in trouble. And so the quarterback is the X factor. Matthew Stafford has to be the X factor for them to beat the Cardinals in this game.
Okay, and of course, we already know a few of the matchups for next week. We've talked about a few of them already. I know you like Tennessee over Cincinnati. I assume you're probably big on Green Bay against San Francisco, especially if Bosa's out. I am big on Green Bay over San Francisco, but I've said it on the air with you guys. Look, that's a toss-up game because I've watched Rodgers lose at home too many times outside of his one Super Bowl run. And what I love most about San Francisco is they're a throwback wing T offense. I mean, ultimately, with all of the motions, trades, that's a wing T. You don't know who's going to get the ball, and the quarterback can throw the ball. So that'll be an interesting matchup for Green Bay. But, again, Rodgers is a dude, and the discount double check is still alive. So it'll be an interesting game to watch. For sure. How close do you think Kansas City Buffalo is going to be?
Ooh, Ooh, I could see that being a shootout. Both offenses are well oiled right now. I think Josh Allen, much like Patty Holmes, like that, he makes that thing go. The difference is, Holmes has a lot of targets to get the ball to. Though I'm not being look, I believe you got to respect the opponents. On paper, the Kansas City Chiefs should be able to handle Buffalo. But Buffalo plays with a grit that you can't statistically find, right? They manhandled the Pats. And this night, it wasn't even close. And I did not see that. Schematically, they also had the Pats on a few different plays. And so if the Bills can stay on fire, they'll give them a game, but I could see a 42-31 game, something like that, 41-31, because I think the Chiefs are going to score. And because the Bills can score it too, I could see this being a high-scoring event.
I'm kind of expecting it to be a high-scoring game, too. Lastly, we had the Natty last week, and it was Georgia finally exercising those Alabama demons as the Dogs win the national championship. What did you see? How did Georgia flip the result from the SEC championship game?
Hey, listen, those Dogs were barking. Woo! Like they were flying around. And shout out to Bennett for all the criticism that kid gets, including myself. Like my job as a coach is to evaluate the skill, the decisions, and see where he's weak and where he's strong. Where he is strong is as a decision maker and not putting his offense in a bad predicament, and letting the defense do what that defense does. And they did. They made a Heisman Trophy quarterback not look like a Heisman winner. And though I think Alabama's defense is fast and they ran to the ball, those Georgia receivers who took a lot of criticism from me as well, though they big boy Michigan, they also big boy Bama. And we haven't seen that in a long time. And it wasn't the run game that did it. It was the big boy receivers. And we all know Coach Saban, he coaches the secondary. So that will be personal for him in the offseason. And as you can already see, the transfer portal, I think they already have 4 or 5 kids in the transfer portal. So, look, shout out to Georgia, the Bulldogs. They are back. And shout out to Cincinnati. It's been, 21 or 31 years?
31, yeah.
31 years to bring back the Icky Shuffle. Let's go.
Love it. Malik Hall, thanks for joining us for Talking Football with Malik Hall this week. Looking forward to next Monday already.
Hey, guys, man, like this Monday night is going to set up for a next great midday Monday with the Mannix boys. Thank you, boys.
Is.
Always a pleasure,
Thanks
Malik.
a lot.
Thank you, man.
Malik Hall, former college football coach, joining us here to talk gridiron.
Yeah, it left us a lot to digest and think about heading into next week. I think he's not high on the Packers like I am. We've had that, he's sticking it with that. So, again, man, the Packers are going to have to – I know Packers fans – they probably had that beef with Malik all year, again, as a Lions fan anyway. So, I'm sure they're all chopping at the bit to get their Green Bay Packers out there and get a win. But.
All right, we've got to take a break. We'll come right back. It's Middays with Mannix and Mannix.